Brad, it really has. And I got to say that this podcast has forced me to focus my messaging and really understand my why a lot better. I think when we did episode 1, I wasn't ready to verbalize it, which is why the why of FI ended up being episode 38. But I've probably reached even more clarity on my purpose since then. And we actually got an email from Scott, who writes over at simplyfinance.com. And I'll put a link to this article in the show notes. And he says, Brad and Jonathan, I've been a listener since December, and your podcast has given me a lot of clarity and direction on my passion for personal finance. I've always liked personal finance, but I haven't condensed and refined what my stance and beliefs were until I started listening to the podcast. I'm way more clear and confident when I discuss or write about finances. He says, I don't expect you to read this because I know you guys are busy, but I shared my story in the YFI this week in the article. This is the one that I'm going to include in the show notes for today's episode. And Scott is actually a educator, a counselor, helping people with their finances. And I think, a lot of us get very glued in the nuts and bolts and the numbers, and it's hard to take that step back and understand the psychology, understand the worldview that's attached to this. And that is what shifted for me. When I started, it was all about hitting some mythical number or magical number, in which all my problems went away. But what shifted over, 120 some odd episodes is it's now like a worldview. It's a way of interacting with society. And it's a journey where it's not just an end destination. So I don't know. For me, my ability to communicate this stuff and talk to people about this has definitely gotten easier. Now, I wouldn't say that it's just taken hold in my neighborhood and that everybody's on board like you're seeing, but certainly in my own mind, I have a lot more peace about like how to interact with people on this topic and what FI means for me.